Good evening to my regular listeners. Good evening to my regular listeners and my students of the prophetic hour. This is Prophet Lynn Templeton coming to you live. The lighting's good. Coming to you live Wednesday evening. This recording will be left. Like it had a problem. It says the app did not load because there appeared to be something wrong with it. Okay, I think we're still trying to get things ironed out. So I apologize. So we may have another interruption. We're still trying to get this thing figured out. For those who are not familiar with me, my name is Prophet Lynn Templeton. I am part of a team, Prophetess Rosemary and Prophet Lynn Templeton, out of Memphis, Tennessee. We teach advanced biblical as well as intermediate biblical knowledge. We run a ministry called the Light of Truth Ministries International, and also under the heading of Light of Truth, the Lighthouse of Yahshua, which is our ministry, rather our church / teaching under that heading, marketing and advertising. But the Light of Truth Ministries is our organization. For those of you who are not part of our regular group churches that we teach to, my name again is Prophet Lynn Templeton, and my background included a bachelor's degree in business administration. I worked for the federal and state government, federal FDIC as a financial analyst for a number of years. I was co-owner of a business for roughly 20 years. I am a Vietnam era veteran, and I have extensive experience in many other areas. I have studied with local Jewish synagogue for a couple of years, and I have performed biblical research for over 20 years. And I host the Blog Talk Radio, the Prophetic Hour. And my partner again is Prophetess Rosemary, who has a MBA, master's degree in business administration, worked for a Fortune 100 company for over 20 years, a college professor teaching business courses at primarily junior level colleges, and a manufacturing co-owner of our business, the business that we ran for close to 20 years. She has a Bible certificate for both the Old and New Testament. And we were called in an extraordinary way. Many of our listeners are familiar with our calling, our background, as well as the way we were called, which was extremely rare. Prophetess Rosemary thought she had a dream and was visited by an angel and was told to write down the information. The information that she wrote down the next morning, she looked puzzled and told me what she saw in the dream. And I went over to her side of the bed and found notes. And these notes, it was a startling situation. And these notes had to be broke down. In Vanderbilt Divinity Library, we visited that library the next day, where out of the millions of books, it is one of the largest divinity libraries in this country, and there's millions of books. And so out of all those books, millions of books, I saw one book that looked just pretty to me, just attractive. And I pulled that book off the shelf, and where I opened the book up, where my finger was exactly word for word what she had written down. And so that information, being an analyst, I broke it down into greater detail over several years. And this was 12 years ago. So we have an extensive amount of information that is deeper than your traditional teaching. And it couples with much of the Jewish teaching, as well as Ethiopian knowledge. And so we have been developing this information for 12 years. And this is why some of the organizations that we have worked with have allowed us, that is, because the information crosses over into these different religions, Jewish, as well as ancient Hebrew, and Catholicism even. And so these organizations welcome us to study with them because of the information in some cases. And so this information is basic, but at the same time, it is out of the ordinary, and it's wisdom. It makes complete sense to those who have been taught this information. And so tonight we're going to do a short session, and this is primarily for our regular listeners who have followed us for many years, because many of the baby Christians, as we call them, are not. It's not easily readily absorbed. Initially, we usually take people through a teaching training over several months, and then we dive into the greater depth of information that we teach. We've had many extraordinary events, and both myself and the prophetess, we perform, as the Bible called it, 1 Corinthians 2:4, deliverance, power, which is both not only healing, but what some call the Old Testament deliverance. And according to 1 Corinthians 2:4-5. And so this is coupled with the knowledge which goes into discipleship. This knowledge you have to practice. It is not knowledge that is just for information. This is wisdom, which is knowledge. There's a difference, and you'll find that out if you follow me for a while, because you're not going to gain access to all of the depth of this information unless you follow for a while. You must be trained into this information. It reveals itself because it is at the depth of its core. It is basic. It is written within your spirit. And so what we are doing is we're opening you to what you already know. And that is the key to this knowledge. And it is why so many who have heard our teaching have followed us for a long period of time. Now, tonight we're going to conclude this with a short teaching session for those who are on the air for the first time listening to us. And I call it, What is Truth? And the key verse, and by the way, everything that we teach, it is biblically sound. And so we always reveal the verses that coordinate with the information. Now, Daniel 8:12 is the verse that I want to introduce you to tonight. And it says, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Now, there are several key words in this verse, and I want you to really grasp this verse so that you can get the understanding of what the truth is, what it truly is according to God, according to the Bible, because there are many that are talking about the truth, but they don't know the truth. They don't practice the truth. See, when you know the truth, you have to practice it. That's automatic. Unlike what you learn in religion, it is information, and you can falsify your existence in religion, but you can't do that in the spiritual knowledge that Christ brought to the earth. Okay. Now, in Daniel 8:12, the key verses here, the first word, it says, and in host. So the word host, you can't take it for granted, any of these verses. When you look it up, it says a person who receives or entertains other people as guests. The next key word is sacrifice. It says he was given against the daily sacrifice. So sacrifice is an act of slaughtering an animal, a person, or surrendering a possession as an offering to God or to a divine or supernatural figure. The next verse is transgression. It says, by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth. So transgression is an act that goes against a law or code of conduct, an offense. And it goes on to say, as it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So practice means very good at doing something because you have a lot of experience of doing it. That's what practice means, according to Webster. And cast, it says in general, to throw with various degrees of violence. That's the key word, of violence, usually with force. Another key, and the most important key word here is truth. And it says, looking at the Hebrew word for truth, we can see how God becomes the center of the meaning of truth. Now, that's what your dictionary says. And that's getting very close to what's biblical. Now, the Hebrew word for truth is emet, E-M-E-T. Now, my pronunciation may not be 100%, but E-M-E-T is the Hebrew word for truth. Now, what this verse is telling you, this is the fall of Lucifer in this verse, Daniel 8, verse 12. And I'll read it again. It says, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So this was the fall of Lucifer. There is an ancient mythology story which says that when right before man was created, that God summoned his sons. And as they paraded past, God asked of each one of them what they thought of his creating man. And they answered according to their title. One, for example, one was the peace. The one was, the principle of, there's different principles and principalities and so forth. Each one of them has a name, and they answered accordingly. And Lucifer his title was light bearer of truth. Now you look at his name, his name, what's the expression? His name bears witness to this, because Lucifer, the word Lucifer means light bearer. You see, and what he bared was, his title was the light bearer of truth. Now he was not that truth, but he was the light bearer of truth. So he was the steward, is the better word. He was the steward. He was the carrier until the true one appeared. So as light bearer of truth, he answered according to truth. And so in his answer, in actuality, what he did was, he, what's the word for it? This happens when you get over 60. It was the first volley of the rebellion that took place in heaven was his answer. And he said man would be falsity. And so by that answer, in actuality, man could not be created except for the act that God performed, which made everything, which made it possible at that point, because God immediately cast him down. He cast him to the earth. And if you understand about spirits, when the God or leader, the highest spirit, all the other spirits are attached to that spirit. And so when he was cast down, all the other spirits were cast with him. And according to their position, their title, it was the level at which they fail. Okay. Now, most importantly, I'm not going to get into a great deal about that story, which matches the Bible, Daniel 8:12, and there's a couple other verses. But what's most important in this opening session is that his title was the light bearer of truth. And so his being cast out, because he in actuality defied what he represented. And so it was an attempt to stop the creation of man. And so this story, it expresses how the importance of truth. It expresses the deep latitude that truth holds, because then the angels, one of the high angels, will say it that way at this point. He said, he asked God, you have cast your truth down, Lord, God of heaven. What is the I can't remember the exact wording, how it goes, but anyway, they questioned why God cast his truth down, and God told them that his truth would rise again. So truth is the only thing the only thing that you cannot hold down. You can only suppress it for a length of time. You can only hold it down for a period of time. But truth always rises. You see, because the truth separated from Lucifer as he fell. And so the truth was what God made man out of. Then the truth became part of the ground. You see, because God in this verse, it shows you he cast truth to the ground. And man was made from the ground. So the truth, God says, will always rise. You can lie, you can deceive. There's different levels of truth. Rather, there are different levels. Well, there's different levels of truth too. But at this point, I wanted to say there's different levels of a lie. And this is what Satan represents. And these different levels of a lie is the lie itself, then deception is the second level. Falseness is the third, and it is the general expression. And then the fourth level is an illusion. An illusion. That is so it's four levels of a lie. And you'll find that everything follows that pattern. And this is something they failed to teach, that everything is multidimensional. Everything is on four levels that are in this physical reality, because this physical reality extends into other realities. Let's see, the verse is, well, I don't have the verse in front of me right now, but there's a verse that I have memorized. And again, my senior age is showing up. I should have had it before me, but there's a verse that says, those that are called by my name, I have created him. I have formed him, and I have made him. And I think it's Isaiah 43:7. And that expresses the four-dimensionality of man. And everything takes on that four dimension from the perspective of this physical reality for man. See, we live and we express ourselves poorly. We express ourselves in a one-dimensional aspect for most people. But this reality has four perspectives. And so it's multidimensional as well. So the realm or reality is in four. And each one of those realities has multiple dimensions to them in actuality. But that's another conversation as well. So to sum this up, and this is just introduction, to sum this up, what is truth? So the truth is spirit, is spiritual. We're not going to fully answer the question tonight because you have to grasp the foundation first. But the truth is spirit. It is not just an idea. It is not, if to tell the truth, it is not just telling the truth. The truth is spiritual. There are many expressions of the truth in the Bible. And Jesus himself said he was the truth, the way, and the life. And that is extremely important. As you get into this teaching, you'll better understand why. So as a introductory, I think we better stop at this point. And I want to thank you for joining us here at the Prophetic tonight. And I hope you can join us again. I think we'll do this Sunday. What's that again? You can. We're getting our Patreon set up so that, you know, for those who follow us, that or if you just feel like helping us to stay on the air, you can make a contribution at Patreon. We hadn't fully got it set up, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that, and we'll put this. This will show up on. Well, it'll show up on our YouTube channel, and we're going to have it set up also in other places. But this is an introductory, so we're still figuring it all out, to be honest with you. So, in conclusion, I want to thank you for joining us, the Lighthouse of Yahshua, and the Light of Truth Ministries International, for Prophetess Rosemary Templeton and Prophet Lynn Templeton. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you. Look for us this Sunday, but it may be next Wednesday. We'll post it on our Facebook, and the Facebook is Light of Truth Ministries is how you pull it up. So we'll post it there. So thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful night. God bless, and we'll see you.